not afraid, though the arrows fly by day. I am yours, you know my name. No fear ain't got a hold on me. I am not afraid, guarded by your shield of faith. I won't fall, cause you're my strength. No fear ain't got a hold on me. I'm not afraid, I'm not afraid, I'm not afraid. No fear ain't got a hold on me.
Well, hello there. I hope that you guys are doing well. I am currently stuck in my house and my family is quarantined into that picture / the backyard, and the last thing I heard before I started recording was my daughter yell and then my wife shush her just as loudly. So that's how life for us is going today. But I'm glad that this conference can be a part of your life. Welcome in. I hope that you have enjoyed all the previous videos before. But you're in for a treat today. This is going to be the best one. I mean, obviously, I'm the best and the most humble. Everyone knows this, of course. So I'm giving a talk in my living room. Like, I moved half of my couch to behind you where you can't see. It's a mess behind the camera, but you can't see that. I set this up all nice and pretty just for you, because it's strange to be giving a talk to literally no one. Currently, I'm staring at my new phone that I bought, which I feel is a sin somehow to just stare at this phone for a while, but it is what it is. That's the situation that we find ourselves in today. Today I want to share with you one of the scriptures that's been helping me get through this crazy time as we're stuck at home, as we all are in the midst of fear and anxiety and people losing their lives, people getting sick, people losing their jobs, people losing money. This is affecting everybody on some level. And I was honestly, I wasn't anxious about it, but I got into this mode where I was just like, I'm just gonna work my tail off. I'm gonna start cranking out content like crazy. The first few days of the quarantine, I was just making podcasts and YouTube videos and all this kind of stuff, and working on this and working on, helping some other people with some of their projects, and just work and going to bed at 2 or 3 in the morning every night. I got more done in the first 4 or 5 days of the quarantine than I've gotten done in a very, very long time. It was super productive, but not really all that healthy. So I don't know how you guys are dealing with this, but for the last few days, I realized that the last few days I've been able to have a balance between my work, my prayer time, my relaxation time, all of it, and it's been going a little better. So today I want to share a story with you from the scriptures, from Daniel chapter 3. It's a story that a lot of us have heard before. It's not like the upper echelon of biblical stories, but you've heard it. I mean, it was on VeggieTales, so most of us have heard the story, because let's be real, either you were a parent when VeggieTales came out, or you were a kid when VeggieTales came out, or you somehow missed it and now you have kids that are watching VeggieTales. So either way, VeggieTales has been as much a part of my life as it has been anything else in and around the church. So the story is Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Now that Shadrach and Benny, obviously if you watch VeggieTales, that's a lot easier way to say that, because they didn't tell you that part whenever you first read this story, because I can imagine my kids right now, if I brought them in and asked them to read those 3 names, my son would get pretty close, but it would be hilarious. My daughter would look at me and laugh, and the baby would tell me what color the floor was. I don't know what she would do, but it wouldn't be it wouldn't be anywhere near close. So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are the names that these 3 Jewish guys got whenever Babylon took over. Babylon is now the power. There's a bunch of other tribes. The most important thing to know is that Israel is not in control. God's people are not in control. And does that sound similar to anything going on right now? So King Nebuchadnezzar, who's in charge, he liked these guys. He brought them into his court. He gave them these three new names, which maybe he didn't like them all that much, because he gave them Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego as names, but that's beside the point, which honestly is most of my talks, just beside the point things with a point made at the end. So it's just pre-point, not beside the point. Okay. King Nebuchadnezzar had a golden statue made. It was 60 cubits high and 60 cubits wide. Now, I'm not a biblical scholar, so I don't know how big that is, but I kind of feel like it's how big I'm going to be after this quarantine. But he set it up, and he ordered all these people to come in and to kneel down to it, to pray to it. Nations and people of every language, when you hear the sound of the harp, or he just lists a bunch of other musical instruments. I have a music degree. The pipe, the zither, I don't know what a zither is. I know what a dulcimer is. I know what a harp is. The double flute, that's really neat. I don't think I know what that is, but I know what a flute is, so I can imagine it because I'm not smart, but I'm not dumb. Okay, so whoever does not fall down in worship shall be instantly cast into a white hot furnace. That doesn't sound pleasant. So therefore, as soon as they heard the sound, the nations of all the people, they all fell down and worshipped. And at some point, some of the Chaldeans came and accused the Jews, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, to King Nebuchadnezzar. They were snitches. Keep that in mind. They said, "Oh, king, live forever," which is just a weird thing to say. You issued this decree, blah, blah, blah. They list all the instruments again. Apparently that was important. You said that people need to fall down and worship. Well, there are certain Jews whom you have made administrators of the province of Babylon, Shadrach and Benny. These men, O king, have paid no attention to you. They will not serve your God or worship the golden statue which you set up. So Nebuchadnezzar flew into a rage, which is just great verbiage in the Bible. People say the Bible is boring, but like flew into the rage, it's like I can connect with Nebuchadnezzar, which I know isn't the goal of the story, but it's still true. He flew into the rage. He sent for them. Okay. So what were the? Here's what he says. Nebuchadnezzar questioned them. Is it true, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you will not serve my God or worship the golden statue that I set up? Now, if you are ready to fall down and worship the statue I made, whenever you hear the sound of listing instruments again, very strange. If you fall down and worship, then all will be well. If you do not, you shall be instantly cast into the white hot furnace. And who is the God who can deliver you out of my hands? So a couple of things here. What are the two options that King Nebuchadnezzar, I know, I picked the Bible story with the hardest names, I apologize. What are the two options that he gives them? One, bow down and worship. Two, be thrown into a fiery furnace. Another thing we need to walk back and look at is, where were Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego whenever they were worshiping God? They were obviously somewhere not extremely public because they were the king's men. They were literally on his court. They weren't with the king because otherwise he would have seen it when all the nations and all the people were together. But they weren't completely private either because they were seen by the Chaldeans. Okay, so there's this balance where they're not in public, but they're not completely private. And we're going to see, okay, for a lot of us, it's really easy to live out our faith at home. I can sit here, right, on my sofa, I can pray, everything's fine. I'm not gonna be questioned about it, nobody's gonna give me grief about it, my kids may come and interrupt me, but they're not bad people most of the time. All of these things, it's a lot easier to worship God on Sunday when you're in Mass, when you are, at church, at youth group, at adult faith formation, like whatever, at a conference, whatever. It's a lot easier to worship there. But when you get called out on it, like, hey, you need to stop doing this. You can't miss work to go to a Holy Day of Obligation or Ash Wednesday or whatever, right? Or somebody calls you on it, like, hey, you can't do these things, or even temptations, right? Like everybody's going out drinking, you need to go drinking too. And it's like, no, like, I'm going drinking. But if you're watching this, you're under 21, you can't. I work in youth ministry. It's the examples I always use. If you're old, I'm sorry, I guess. Sorry, I'm not sorry. Whatever. Okay, but they get these two options. One, now that they're in a public place, are they going to choose now to live out their faith publicly? Or are they going to take the easy way out and just be like, oh, yeah, it's fine. I'll worship now that I got caught because I don't want to make a fuss, right? Or they could be thrown into a fiery furnace that King Nebuchadnezzar was so angry, he made 7 times as strong as the fire has ever been. All right. Now the decision gets a little harder. Now it's going to affect their life, their livelihood, their jobs, their ranking. Okay, so like you and I aren't going to be thrown into a fiery furnace anytime soon, but now it's where the rubber meets the road. I'm sure there's a rubber and fire joke in there, but I'm not going to go for that. Okay, but this is where the rubber meets the road. Here is where we need to make the decision. When we're in public, when we're in conversations, are we going to be people of integrity? What does integrity mean? That we are one, we are whole. Am I going to be Church Taylor? work Taylor, all non-integrated, person out with my friends at the bar, are those going to be all different people, or is it going to be one person? Okay, now here we are. Let's step back for a second. We're in this situation where everybody is anxious, fearful, whatever. Jesus tells us, be not afraid, and now I'm looking at these guys who are being faced with death by a huge fire, and they seem to not be afraid, and yet I'm a little anxious because I'm losing money, I'm losing events, I'm losing like parts of my livelihood, like things are happening, right? And I'm not even somebody who's facing the worst of it. They were presented with those two choices. Here's how they answer and how they respond with the two choices they really have. What they say is, there is no need for us to defend ourselves before you in this matter, which is wild, because the last thing Nebuchadnezzar said, what God can protect you, can save you from my hands. And what they're saying is, bro, you don't matter. You don't matter. Well, I don't care that you're the person in charge here on the earth. There's no need for us to defend ourselves before you in this matter. If our God, whom we serve, can save us from the white-hot furnace and from your hands, O king, may he save us. But if he will not, you should know, O king, that we will not serve your God or worship the golden statue which you set up. So they were given two choices: bow down and worship, or die in the furnace. They return two different choices. Either God won't save us, but we're not going to go against our God, or our God will save us. Those are the two choices they have. We are going to suffer well, or we are going to be saved. So here we are in this situation with the coronavirus, and that is where you and I are. The world's trying to give us two choices: fearful, dismay, like we are defeated, where we have to give in, or where we're going to lose everything. And our response, I hope my response can be, after reading through this and praying through this, is what Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego say. It's like, look, you gave us two choices. My choices are this: I'm happily going into the suffering, because either God is going to be with me in the suffering, or I'm not. Even if I walk through this suffering, even if this cup doesn't pass from me, I'm not giving in. I'm not giving up my faith, my truth, my love for God. Okay. So then King Nebuchadnezzar, obviously, he gets very upset. His face became livid with utter rage, which again is a phrase that people can use for me. And again, that's King Nebuchadnezzar. I apologize. His face became livid. He ordered the furnace to be heated 7 times more than usual, had some of the strongest men in his army bind them, cast them into the white-hot furnace. They were bound and cast there with their trousers, shirts, hats, and other garments, which is a strange thing for the Bible to continue. They're still in their trousers, but it's going to be important later. I promise. I really promise that it will. It says, before the king's order was urgent. We don't have time to take it off. Just throw them in as they are. It's like when you like you drop your phone in the pool. You just jump in. You got to go get it. There's no time to get into your swimming suit. No. Okay. So here's what they do. They fell into the hot furnace. They walked around in the flames, singing to God and blessing the Lord. That's wild. I'm not great at suffering. Here are these guys who literally got thrown into a fiery furnace, and they're like, just la 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 la, walking around and praising God. The prayer goes on for verses and verses. I'm scrolling all these verses where they're praising God. Now the king's servants who had thrown them in continued to stoke the furnace with words I don't understand. The flames rose and spread out, burning the Chaldeans, again, burning the people who were putting them in the fire. But the angel of the Lord went down into the furnace with them, drove the fiery flames out of the furnace, and made the inside of the furnace as though a dew-laden breeze were blowing through it. The angel of the Lord meets them in the furnace. And not only are they not burning, it's pleasant in there. There's a dew-laden breeze. I love a dew-laden breeze. It's warm in here. I would love to, that sounds amazing. There they are in the midst of what should be their torture. And Jesus is there. The angel of the Lord is there. God is with them. with a dew-laden breeze. Why? Because they're continually praising God, and he showed up to save them. The fire in no way touched them or caused them pain or harm. Then these three in the furnace with one voice sang, glorifying and blessing God. They continue another song. If you've ever done morning prayer or liturgy hours, this is the prayer that they're praying, just going through this again. Mountains and sun, bless the Lord. Everything, bless the Lord. They finished the song. Nebuchadnezzar was startled and rose in haste, asking his counselors, did we not cast 3 men bound into the fire? Because he sees them walking around and he sees 4 men. First of all, how many people are you murdering a day that you don't know how many people you just murdered? Finally, a way that I don't connect with King Nebuchadnezzar. Okay, they're not hurt. They're walking around the fire, and the 4th one looks like a son of God. Then he calls out to them, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out. So they came out. They're very obedient. When all the counselors of the king came together, they saw that the fire had no power over the bodies of these men. Not a hair on their head had been singed, nor were their garments altered. There was not even a smell of fire about them. Remember I told you that the trousers were going to come back again? Why was that included? It's because not only were Shadrach and Benny saved, their clothes were not burned. Not a hair on their head was singed. Now, for you guys with a full head of hair, that means a lot. For me, the bald guy, that's not really all that impressive to me. You know, God always says, God knows every hair on your head. That's less impressive for me every single day. But for those of you with hair, it's still a very impressive thing. Not only were their clothes not burned, their hair wasn't burned, but they came out of the fire not even smelling of the flame. That's wild, because we all went to a bonfire when we were in high school or college and came home and mom was like, have you been smoking tonight? You smelled like the fire. And that was just a little fire that we made with 3 sticks by ourselves because we were dumb high school kids. And we still smelled like the flames sitting 8 feet away from it, social distancing from the fire. See, that's how we learned it. But we were so smelly when we came away from that fire. But these guys were literally in the midst of the biggest bonfire you and I would have ever seen, and they didn't even smell like the smoke. So what is that for us? Okay, a couple of things. The angel of the Lord was there with them in the midst of the suffering. So many people now, there's people smarter than me can argue, did God do this? Is God allowing this free will, all of these things, right? What I know is that God is there in the midst of our suffering and trials right now. Why do I know that? Because he was there for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They're praising God. He shows up. He delivers them. And he saves them. And they go into the mess and they come out not even smelling like the fire. They come out unscathed. That is our hope here in this time. So whenever we are in the fire, we call out our praise to God. God is with us in the midst of the fire. Just like Jesus, here's this thing that we have. We are Americans and we are Catholics. Now, as Americans, we have this thing in us where it's we want to get rid of suffering. We want to make everything easy. When it comes to little simple things, I love sitting on my couch and playing video games. What's wild is the example in youth ministry used to be microwaves. That was a long time ago. Those aren't new anymore. And then the example used to be fast food. Now, what's crazy, I can sit right here on this couch. I can order fast food on an app and someone brings it to my door. We're not good with suffering as Americans, yet here we are as Catholics. Suffering is good. It's wild. I'm terrible at it, but it's a good thing. It's a good thing. And where is God in the midst of the suffering? He's right there in the fire with us. There's this Matt Maher song that just hits me every single time. Where were you in all our suffering? Where were you, God? I felt alone. I was by myself. I was losing my job. Friends were losing their lives. All of these things were happening. Where were you? And Jesus says, I was on the cross. I was there with you. I was there for you. So all of us, as we sit here in the midst of this pandemic and we have fear and anxiety, What is God saying to us today? I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm there with you and your families. I'm there with you if you are by yourself. I am there with you and I am there for you. Be not afraid. Because the God of the universe is sitting right next to you as you watch this. It's wild, wild stuff. It doesn't end there. King Nebuchadnezzar, he goes and he says, he was just trying to kill him. And now he's saying if anybody wants to talk badly about this God that they serve, and if anybody wants to bring harm to Shadrach and Benny, you will be cut to pieces. Which is funny. And I know it's a weird thing to say that it's funny that people are being cut to pieces, but he's done throwing people in furnaces. He's given up. It's not going. He's like, this isn't going to affect anyone. I'm done. So for us who are going through this as Christians, how are we going to show our love for God during this time? How are we going to show our love for neighbor? What is it going to do for us? For Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, it saved them. What is it going to do for others? It's going to show our love and our trust in God, even when it's hard. That's the challenge for us today. So to recap, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were given two options. They made two different options because of their faith, their trust, and their love for God. They continued to praise him even in the midst of their sufferings. And they were like, either we're going to be saved from this, or even if we suffer, we're not going to let down on our walk with God. We're not going to, like, I think for us, as we're stuck in our houses, it's not somebody coming to say, hey, I'm going to kill you if you're not Christian. It's, are we going to worship the idol of not spending time in prayer? Worship the idol of sloth, worshiping the idol of ourselves because we don't think we need God in this time. Like, getting into our prayer time is how we are going to be just like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And guys, if we're able to do this, we're going to be able to come out of this not even smelling like the smoke. So here's what I want to do. Just like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego did, they praised God in the midst of the suffering. I want to do that here with us today. So if you would, please pray with me. Just real quick, just a time for us to quiet our hearts, to focus on God, and to give him praise because he is still in control. Oh Lord, my God, when I in awesome wonder consider all the works thy hands have made, I see the stars, I hear the rolling thunder, thy power throughout the universe displayed. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. And when I think that God his Son, not sparing, sent him to die, name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Guys, thanks for hanging out today. Thank you for all of you that have been a part of this conference, the Be Not Afraid conference that Stacey Summer has been putting together. Thank you guys so much for watching. I want to thank Stacey for inviting me in. Thank all the other great speakers and musicians that have been a part of this. But again, just thank you guys for watching. I hope this has been good for you. For more stuff from me, you can check out fortecatholic.com, F-O-R-T-E Catholic. We've got a weekly podcast usually, but I'm putting about 2 a week now. We're all stuck at home. You can check it out wherever you listen to podcasts, iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, whatever. You can also check it on YouTube, Forte Catholic over there as well. And once this is all over, I'd love to come out to your parish to speak, lead worship, whatever for you guys. ForteCatholic.com. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching. God bless you.